Hey, Doc, welcome to the Simplified Integration Podcast. My name is Dr. Andrew Wells, and this is episode 0. There's always a story.
Leonardo da Vinci once said that simplicity is the ultimate sophistication, and I agree. You see, the problem with the way that most consulting groups approach medical integration is anything but simple. In fact, it's the exact opposite. It's expensive, it's complicated, and quite frankly, it's exhausting. Enough is enough. There are far too many amazing integrated clinics that are struggling. Well, I'm on a mission to change that. What I've come to find from over 5 years working with integrated practices is that simplicity really is the secret. The old saying of less is more is true. Through a streamlined approach, I was able to create multiple successful 7-figure integrated clinics, and now I'm going to show you how you can do the same. Join me as I share with you the secrets to successful medical integration and practice growth. Join me on a journey to greater sophistication through innovation. I'm Dr. Andrew Wells, and welcome to the Simplified Integration Podcast.
Hey, Doc, first and foremost, welcome to the Simplified Integration Podcast. I'm thrilled to have you on here, and I want to give you a little bit of an introduction on where this podcast came from, why it was created, and most importantly, how you can get value from listening to this podcast. So when my wife and I first opened our practice, we moved to a city in Western North Carolina, and we live in the mountains. And we moved here specifically to be close to the outdoors. And so I love trail running, I love mountain biking, I just love to be outside. And I remember our first 2 years in practice, we looked back and I can count on one hand the number of times I'd been running and biking and camping and being outside. Like we had literally no life outside of our practice. And really, it wasn't just the first 2 years. The first 2 years were rough, but it was really the first 5 years. We were so focused on our practice. We had no friends. We weren't going out on my wife and I weren't going on dates, none of the stuff that we love doing because we were so focused on taking care of our patients and our practice. And that was number one. And after a couple of years, I realized I really don't want to do that for the rest of my life. And I knew there had to be a different way. And that's why the Simplified Integration Podcast was born. And so we tried everything in our practice. To give you a little background, we ran a cash chiropractic office. We did medical integration. We did stem cell therapy, neuropathy, weight loss. We even tried doing functional medicine. And so we had a lot of success and we grew multiple offices, but we also had a ton of failure. And I really the reason for this podcast was I want to share with you my successes and my highs, but also we had some bring you to your knees failures. And so I really want you to be able to learn from my successes and my failures so that you can implement these things simply into your practice, into your home life to give you a better life. And that's why this podcast was born. Now, I really want this to be interactive. So if you're listening, if you have a question, if you have a topic you want me to talk about, I would love to hear from you. Just send me an email at info@integrationsecrets.com. So info@integrationsecrets.com. So if you love me, if you hate me, just let me know what you're thinking. And I'd love for this to be a two-way street. Now, the format of this podcast, I'm going to be releasing an episode every week. Sometimes it's just going to be me. Sometimes I'll have some guest doctors and some thought leaders on the podcast so that you can really want this to be relevant to you today in your practice and personal life. And I try to make these episodes as short as possible. So I'll give you some little bite-sized nuggets. Most episodes are about 12 to 15 minutes long. So you can listen to this on your way to work. You can listen to this when you're working out or during your lunch break. So every week I want to provide you with some amazing, valuable content that you can use to make your life better. Now, the first 5 episodes in this podcast is actually a series called the 7-Figure Shortcut. So I wanted to give you the overall arching philosophy and structure behind what we're going to be talking about so you can really start implementing this stuff today in your practice. And this podcast is all about business strategy. So in chiropractic, you have your clinical side and you have your business side. I love both, but there also should be a blend of those two. But I really get excited about the business strategy part. So that's primarily what we're going to be talking about on this podcast moving forward. And a little bit more about me. So I shared with you, I love being outside. I also have a family. I'm married. I have 2 young boys. Right now, they're 3 and 4 years old, and they're a blast. I'm a total family guy. I love spending time with my kids. And that was a lot of this change happened when my wife and I first had our family. And when I was growing up, I come from a long line of entrepreneurs, and my dad growing up was really never around. And because he was working, he was running a small business, and he wasn't a big part of my life growing up. And I remember I knew why he was doing that, and he thankfully provided us with, food, shelter, clothing, a good education, but I knew he was working really hard. And when we first had our family, I realized that I recognized that my dad worked very hard for us, but I didn't want to be an absentee father. And so I wanted to structure my life where I could be really successful financially and help a lot of people, but also be there for the people who count on me the most, my wife and my kids. And so that's where my passion comes from. That's really why I want to help you. And maybe you don't have a family, maybe you do, but these secrets I'm going to share with you will help you in all areas of your life. And that's what I really get geeked out about. So that's what we're going to be sharing on this podcast. So, hey, Doc, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you find this content very valuable. And I look forward to sharing these secrets with you for years to come. Take care, and we'll see you on the next episode. Bye-bye. Hey, innovators, thanks for listening to the Simplified Integration Podcast. The fact that you're listening tells me that you're like me, someone who loves simplicity. And the truth is, those who embrace simplicity are some of the greatest innovators. So I hope you got a ton of value from what we covered on today's episode. Be sure to subscribe and share with other docs that you feel could benefit from greater sophistication through simplification and innovation. If you've got specific questions that you'd like answered on this podcast, or you've got specific topics that you'd like me to discuss, just shoot me an email at info@integrationsecrets.com. That's info@integrationsecrets.com.